What's going on, everybody? Justin here at Saltstrong, and I'm excited to do this video for you guys today. We're going to talk about the Bixpy J-2 Outboard Kit. Now, the first time I've seen a Bixpy motor was probably iCast 2017, and ever since then, I've always had it out the corner of my eye as an accessory to add to my kayak. This video today, we're going to go over the basic installation, specifically for the Mirage Drive adapter for a Hobie Outback or a variety of different Hobie kayaks, as well as the rudder adapter that you can put on the back, the stow and deploy. We're also going to talk about the outboard power pack, which is the main battery here for the unit, the kill switch that is magnetized to help make sure that the motor doesn't fly off if you accidentally fall out of the kayak, and just some on-the-water application. We're going to pop my kayak here right inside this bay. We're going to ramp this motor up to full speed. We're going to test this thing out and see how it does on the water. All right, jumping into the Bixpy J-2 Outboard Kit. The first thing you're going to notice when you take the top off the box is a really detailed quick start guide that Bixpy includes. Now, please take the time to read through all the information here on this guide, not just for your safety, but so you can get a good understanding of all of the parts and pieces that are included in this kit, the outboard power pack, the remote, how the connectors work, and a couple additional features. What we're going to look at here is just a basic install on the Hobie Mirage Drive adapter that you can get from Bixpy. So I have a Hobie Outback, and this install is super simple. 4 screws connect the motor to the base mount. Then you've got a power supply cable that runs up the main shaft of the mount. Bixpy is going to include a couple of clasps and zip ties to secure that power supply to the main shaft. It's really easy. These clasps, you just run the zip tie from one end to the other. They're recessed, so when you tighten down on them, they're going to provide for a really secure connection. Just clip off the tag ends on both sides, and you're ready to get on the water. A quick side note for Hobie users, you're going to need to change the cowl covering of the motor to the one with shaved edges. That way you can get the motor in and out of the Mirage Drive unit without damage. Make sure you tilt that motor back when going in and out of the receiving port for the Mirage Drive. It's going to help make sure the motor doesn't get damaged. With the power supply line, it'll rest on the left or the right hand side of the adapter. Doesn't really matter where, just make sure it's not pinched. Secure that adapter in place, and with the power supply, you're going to have some dielectric grease to be able to coat the receiving ends. Then you just connect the power supply straight to the battery pack. It's going to be the port all the way to the left-hand side. Make sure you have a secure connection there. And then something cool is Bixpy gives you this magnetized coin that is their release clip. So this coin sits on the center of the battery and provides power from the battery to the unit. But if you were to fall out of your kayak and that coin was removed, power will immediately be cut off from the battery to the motor. All right, we're just going to get on the water here for a little bit. Drag this in the water and putts around here in the bay. So for now, I'm just going to keep my shoes up front, my Mirage Drive sitting right there on the front hatch. Should be in deep enough water to be able to pop this in. There we go, it's in. And I'm just going to press it down into those clasps, but I'm going to make sure that I'm not pinching the power supply here. So I'm going to push it straight down. There we go. All right, I've got my rudder straight. Motor's on. Let's start. Okay, I hear it whirring. It's on. Now, this has 12 settings forward and I believe 3 settings in reverse. And this is your stop button. I'm gonna just crank it up. That was 1, so let's go to 2, 3, 4. Woo, I can feel the vibration here throughout the kayak. So this is just a really slow, steady pace. I'm sure I'm going maybe a mile an hour right now at about setting 4. You know what? I'm actually gonna check my speedometer. I can get a speed on this. All right, trip has started. Let me ramp it up to, let's say, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wow, that is a lot of power just at number 8. And let's see what speed it's going to acknowledge. Right now, I'm at about 2 miles an hour. This feels like a slow, steady cadence if I were to use my pedals. I think this is nifty to be able to have this remote just attach here onto your wrist. This doesn't get in the way at all. I mean, it's not affecting me, you know, reeling or handling a fish, so this is kind of convenient. But I'm sure some other guys that have the H rails on the newer Outback or on a Pro Angler, you could just strap that here to the rails and it'd be a little easier to maneuver at that point. Yeah, I'm sure everybody wants to know. I want to crank this up, not to 11, I'm going to crank it up to 12. So what was I at, 8? So 9, 10, 11, 12. Wow, Okay, that's pretty fast. I'm going 3 miles an hour right now. It's probably a little bit faster than that, to be honest. I'm gonna have to double check a different speedometer. Okay, we're gonna test this again. I am on speed 10 right now, and it looks like I'm going 3.2 miles an hour. I've got a little bit of a headwind, so I might go downwind here in a little bit and see if that speed picks up. Let me actually take it to 12 right now. So that is the fastest speed that this can go, and it seems like my top speed is right at about 3.5. And I mean, you know, that's just looking at the number. I'm looking around on the water, and that's pretty fast. I mean, that's a good steady pedal. If I want to head from A to B, 3.5 miles an hour is pretty par for the course, in my opinion. I will say this is pretty loud. Granted, I have it all the way cranked up, but there's a very strong vibration on this motor. It's a pretty powerful motor for what it is. I will say this is pretty cool. Just to not have to be able to work my feet and make it from A to B. You know, if I wanted to just pick up and go scoot to those islands, this is pretty relaxing. I think Bixpy said that on the full power at 12, it probably will last a little over an hour, maybe 90 minutes, probably just shy of 2 hours at the most. And honestly, if I'm gonna make a long trek, you know, it's usually 1.5 to 2 miles max one direction, and going at 3.5, you know, miles per hour. If I just use the motor to be able to get from A to B, going there and back for a day of fishing, and by the time I got to the area that was shallow, I can just pop back in my my Mirage Drive and fish shallow. It's pretty nifty, especially if you want to traverse across a bay in windy or rough conditions. You don't want to have to worry about tiring yourself out first thing in the morning. Or if a storm kicks up and you're exhausted and you got to fight those conditions coming back, I can see this motor coming in handy for those situations. All right, just out of curiosity, I want to pop this into reverse. I've had some instances where I didn't have my Mirage Drive 180 on me, and I would hook a snook and it would pull me into the mangroves and get me all tangled up. If I was fishing a little bit deeper water, let's say, you know, southeast Florida, where you have some deeper channels and cuts where a lot of snook will hang out tight against the mangroves, reverse might come in handy for those situations. So I think there's 3 reverse speeds. Let me just test it out. 1. It's just kind of holding me in place right now with the wind. Wind's kind of pushing me towards the shoreline. Let me go number 2. I think I'm actually moving backwards now. Let me go 3. Dang, look at that. That's pretty fast, man. Let me get some crazy maneuvers going on here. Turn. That is pretty slick. That's really powerful for reverse. Now, honestly, I don't know how much reverse is going to be applicable for, you know, for a lot of people that have this unit. But if you need to get yourself out of a hairy situation and you got the wind blowing you somewhere, putting this on the max power 3 in reverse is pretty strong. I mean, this would fight probably a 10 to 15 mile an hour wind, no problem. I want to go head over and check out some of those docks. Let me just try to throw a power prawn underneath there and see if we can't get some trout. I wanted to test out the Bixpy in an actual fishing scenario, so I went over and skipped some docks that had some shade and cover, hoping for a trout, but sadly, nobody was home. It was kind of late in the afternoon anyways. So I came back and I tried out the different type of adapter for my Outback. This is the twist and stow rudder adapter. Now this will work on the Revos, on the older Outbacks, I think the 2017 and prior, and I just wanted to test it with my actual Mirage Drive in the center of the kayak to supplement the speed, and kind of cross and compare it to how it performs next to the Mirage Drive adapter. That's what we're going to talk about next. All right, made it back on dry land. I kind of want to break down some of the pros, and I wouldn't really say cons of the Bixpy because I think that a lot of this is subjective. Maybe some things didn't work for me per se, just in my style as a kayak angler, but for other kayak anglers or paddlecraft enthusiasts, these things may not, you know, be a burden to you, but I think they're important to note for Bixpy in the future. So let's start with the things that I loved. So I mentioned in the beginning of the video that I am not accessory savvy on my kayak. I try to keep things very simple. I don't like to drill holes in my kayak. I don't like to take a lot of things on the water with me, but I do make my way off the beach at certain times of the year, and I go offshore for blackfin tuna and tarpon. So I can see the advantage of having this type of motor if you're going to cover a lot of ground. The battery life on this was exceptional. I probably ran 100% speed, maybe 70-80% of the time on the water, and I had a good 6-hour day, and I've actually only used about half of my battery life. All of the attachments for this Bixpy J-2 are really easy to use. Just the attachment from the motor to the battery itself is very simple. Just a little bit of dielectric grease and you can pop it on and start rolling out there. The whole unit itself is very lightweight. I think altogether I'm at about 10 pounds and change. So if you're concerned about taking out unnecessary weight on the water, I really wouldn't be worried about it when it comes to this type of unit. I love the fact that the battery floats, that the battery is waterproof. I'm not the safest with my gear. My kayak's going to get flooded. I'm probably going to be fishing in rough conditions. I don't get to choose what the weather's going to be for the day, so it's nice to know that I can go out there with confidence and not have to worry about things short-circuiting or failing on me due to water exposure. The seal's protecting the connection points for the motor into the battery, the auxiliary port. Everything on it seems very secure. And if you have any concerns or questions about how to be able to attach the Mirage Drive adapter or the twist and stow rudder adapter on the back, on Bixpy's website, they have a YouTube video for every single type of attachment, depending on the kayak that you have or the paddleboard that you have. So if you guys want to be a visual learner and you don't necessarily want to walk through the directions on paper, the team there at Bixpy will walk you through step-by-step exactly how to attach everything and make some suggestions and recommendations to help with the longevity of the product. All right, and to address some areas of improvement of things that I think Bixpy should be mindful of in the future, this right here, the wrist mount, it doesn't have a digital screen to show you what power setting you're on. So if there's 12 power settings is the strongest, all the way up to 12 and down to 0, and reverse has 3 settings. It would be nice to know on some sort of digital scale exactly where you're at, or even a dial that'll tick to show you what setting that you're at. Because once you get to about 6 or 8, that whirring intensity and that vibration in the kayak is pretty prevalent. It's hard to discern whether you're on 6 or 8 or 10. Additionally, it's not the quietest unit. It's understandable. It's a very powerful motor for its size and given the propeller size that's on that motor. But if you plan on sneaking up on fish in relatively shallow water or calm conditions, there's a good chance that they're going to feel those vibrations. So at that point, you might need to take it out and swap over to another form of propulsion. And in terms of getting shallow, it's really not designed to get into anything shallower than about 2 feet safely. That rod attachment on the Mirage Drive adapter is preset. I'm sure you could manually chop it and adjust it to a different setting, but it's not the manufactured standard length. I will say I do like the Mirage Drive adapter better than the twist and stow rudder adapter. If I do get into shallow water, it's pretty easy for me to pop that out of the center of the Mirage Drive, pop back in my regular Mirage Drive, keep my fins flush, and then I can get shallow and get on some really nice redfish. But when you put it on the back on the twist and stow rudder, there's a couple of things that are a little frustrating. The first of which is the location for the battery pack. So I just personally haven't found a comfortable location for me in my Outback. I'm sure I could rest it along the side of my milk crate that has all of my tackle in it, but that safety magnet that needs to clip onto the outboard power pack, it's only so long, and unless you're going to keep the battery unit inside of your milk crate, it's a little cumbersome to get to and access. Additionally, with the rudder itself, now when you're just cruising at a slow speed, or if the Bixpy's off and you want to turn left or right, it turns just fine. It might be a little bit delayed, but the minute you start ramping up to about 60 or 70% or higher, and you want to make a sharp turn left or right with that rudder, at least this type of rudder on a Hobie, there's a lot of resistance on that. So you're gonna feel like you're trying to move the earth to be able to turn left or right when it's at max power. So in terms of steering and control when the Bixpy is at full force, it's a little cumbersome. It's pretty challenging. But again, if you're somebody that's gonna cover a lot of ground, I can see some advantages of using that twist and stow rudder, because you can put your Mirage Drive in the center and pedal at the same time as the twist and stow is deployed. I think I clocked almost 5 miles per hour full speed trying to use my pedal drive and the Bixpy at full speed. Overall, I think moving forward, the Mirage Drive mount in the center, just because it gives me the access to use my regular Mirage Drive if I get into shallow water, is going to be my way to go, but I think every angler is going to be a little bit different. That about wraps it up here for this review. Overall, my thoughts of the Bixpy motor: I'm impressed. It's pretty powerful for its size and its weight. To be able to clock 4 miles per hour average at its highest speed for nearly 2 hours, and I mean, I have about half the battery left. I'd say that that would be money well spent if you're the type of person to cover a lot of ground in a day. If you're gonna be a guy over in California, chasing after yellowtail, or you're a beach fisherman, or if you're a fisherman in the Carolinas or tidally heavily influenced areas like deep creeks, this might be an investment for you. And if you have any detailed questions, the team over at Bixpy is awesome. Their customer service department is great. Any questions or even tutorials that you guys need to see, they have YouTube videos for just about every mount and operating style on a variety of different paddle crafts. You guys got to go over to their website, www.bixpy.com. Thanks to the team over at Bixpy, they are offering our insider members a 10% discount on any J2 motor mounting system. That's about $120 in savings. So if you guys were ever on the fence as to whether you wanted to add this to your kayak, or you're trying to save some pennies, this would be a great opportunity to power up your paddlecraft and cover some distance. If you have any questions about the Bixpy J2 motor, please leave them down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your experiences. If you guys have used this before, let others know what you guys think about it. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video, and I'll see you on the water. And if you're new to Salt Strong, we are the best inshore fishing club in America. We teach you how to find and catch all kinds of inshore game fish. You're going to save a ton of money on your fishing tackle, and you're going to meet a bunch of awesome new friends. So if that sounds like something for you, head on over to saltstrong.com, and we will see you in the Insider family soon.